This training video is for the Vector Aerospace STC that gives us guidelines for installation of the Robertson's crash-resistant fuel tank system. First, perform a receiving inspection of the tank and all associated parts that are required for the installation. During this video, I'll be reviewing key sections of the installation processes, applicability for the AS350 and EC130s, removal of the OEM tank, preparation for installation, installation instructions, and finally some of the checks that are required after installation. During the removal process of the OEM tank, make sure all fuel and electrical lines are capped and bagged if necessary to keep from any contamination. First section for preparation of installation is the modification of the forward cradle elastomer stop. Using a 1/2 inch X-Acto knife with a screwdriver handle works the best for cutting the elastomer stop. 2 to 3 straight passes across the edge of the cradle and the elastomer cuts it clean. Next, we move on to the modification of the transmission deck. Opening the hole that the original line went through can easily be enlarged with a stainless burr bit on a Dremel tool. Then the outer diameter of the fuel inlet ring is cut out. A diamond cut circular blade for the Dremel tool worked best when cutting the outer diameter. The first section of the installation instructions is the installation of the fuel tank assembly. While working with Brad Hudson from Vector Aerospace, he suggested we keep the shipping straps on the tank during the installation process to help with maneuvering the tank into position. You will see during this video how leaving the shipping straps installed definitely helped while positioning the tank. Note that the aft portion of the tank needs to be raised into position first. Then the forward section can be raised into place and secured. Make sure the upper aft vent line is connected before the forward section is secured. Before and during the strap torque checks, make sure the tank is level per the ICA requirements. Going back to the tank installation section, you will notice that it states to install the cradles prior to lifting the tank into position. This was tried on a second installation and it was found to be difficult. We were unable to maneuver the tank into position due to the tightness between the cradles and the lower box frame. We recommend that you keep the shipping straps installed on the tank as previously noted during the installation process. Next is the installation of the fill port assembly, using the guide pins as required. This process is quite simple, but we do recommend that the hose clamps are not fully torqued at this time. It's better to torque the hose clamps after the installation of the cover plate to ensure that there is a tight fit. Moving forward is the routing and installation section of the fuel outlet line. This section covers different types of fuel outlet systems, with and without airframe filters. Make note the system that you have and verify that you have the correct parts on site for the installation process. Note that a piece of plexiglass was used as a template to locate the holes for the 90-degree bracket to provide a tight fit. A 90-degree rubber channel was put over the edge of the bottom angle support frame underneath the main gearbox to keep from chafing into the fuel line as required. In the next couple of pictures, the spacers and hardware need to be swapped in order to provide clearance between the fuel hose and crossbeam support. The bottom two bolts and spacers need to be swapped as seen in this picture. The ground is then attached prior to the next step. Attach the fuel line to the pump outlet and you're done with that section. Next is the installation of the fuel pipe support panel. Here is the section where once you have the alignment pin and template locator in place, make sure that the hose clamps are tightened for a secure fit. First, pin the locator plate and template into place for marking. Then, cut the hole. Next, double check the location. If needed, adjust the fuel neck. Pre-fit the cover plate and mark it for modification. Strip paint, sand, and finish with Allodyne to locate the drill holes as required. Then go ahead and pro-seal both sides and assemble the cover plate. Next is the installation of the fuel drain cable. Make sure this cable is handled with extreme caution. Corner runs should be smooth transitions with no kinks. You can route the cable in the same location as before, but use smoother corner turns as this will help the push button work with ease. We continue with the modification of the lower belly panel for the fuel tank vent. After drilling first, you can use a Dremel after with a deburr bit, which worked best for this requirement. Next, the co-pilot's inner baggage panel will need to be trimmed. Then it's everyone's favorite section, electrical modification and installation. Hope all of you know how to solder, as there's a 13-pin solder connector that will need your attention. Vector and Robertson are currently working on replacing the solder connector, but at this time, not one has been produced. First, you'll see the routing and termination of the wiring for the terminal block. soldering pigtails from the connector and prepping for installation of environmental splices, wires are then routed through the protected sheath and terminated after being secured. Next, one thing not mentioned which must be performed is to flush the tank first before calibration by using the drain valve to make sure there is no debris in the baffles. Add 2 gallons, then drain, then add 1 gallon, then drain. The first crash-resistant fuel tank installation in an aircraft with an air-comm air conditioning system, we had 2 issues that needed to be resolved through service engineering. On the aft side of the condenser blower motor assembly, there's an airflow baffle that contacted the tank. And the Freon lines on the co-pilot side contacted the tank before the forward section was raised into position. After working with service engineering, an EA was completed to address these issues. Make note to comply with the EA modifications prior to the tank installation. The baffle was shortened and cut to be sloped to contour to the tank design. The support rod was extended as required for the modified baffle. Then finally, the Freon tubes were repositioned with the tube bender to allow clearance for the tank to be fully installed. As always, make sure that you follow all Vector Aerospace STC instructions, ICAs, and drawings when installing the Robertson's crash-resistant fuel tank system. Don't forget to contact your MSR to verify that all CDLs are loaded into Ramco, and I thank you all for your time.